Hi, this is Niels Han Dynasty. Please like, share, and subscribe. Buy yourself some silver, some platinum, and get into the crystallized osmium scene. It's the eighth precious metal just brought to the market, I think 2014. Big in Europe, not too big here in America. Great opportunities. Be kind, helpful, and grateful, because it's better than being a jerk. I've worked around jerks for 30 years, trust me. It's a lot better than being a jerk. You get more done. More productive if you're nice, kind, and helpful and grateful. But anyhow, that's not what this is about. This is about China. Everyone says China's taken over Africa. You always hear China's taken over Africa. China's taken over Africa. Well, that's bullshit. And here's the story it's about 2 minutes old. The New Tourist. West in panic as Russia announces visa free for all African countries. What? Let's get into it.
Restrictions on Africans visiting their countries. Before traveling to any Western country, you need to file a lot of documents. They do a lot of background checks about you, which take months and in some cases years to process. And at the end of the day, even if everything checks out, they still deny you a visa. Whereas someone from the West doesn't even require a visa to come to Africa. They just board a plane anytime they feel as to visit Africa and just enjoy their time and go back to their home countries. I think many Africans can relate to this. With that regard, Vladimir Putin wants to change things. Lately, he has been the most popular leader in his country, has been the most popular that African leaders have been deciding to choose over the West.
What? He's more popular than China? But the narrative we're being sold is China's owning Africa. Is that a big lie we're being fed? Oh, who knows?
His growing popularity in Africa has been making African countries start kicking out the West and even canceling business deals and siding with Russia. This can be seen especially in the case of Burkina Faso and Niger, where Russia has signed so many deals, including military deals. Now, Russia is not just making a small, but rather a big one, as they want to make Russia visa free for all African countries. What does this mean? This means that as an African, you can just book a plane ticket and fly to Russia without anyone asking you any questions. This move by Russia will help in bilateral relations between Africa and Russia. Africans will easily move and do business with Russia. They will find investment opportunities and even decide to live in Russia, unlike the West, which makes this so hard. Russia is making this easy just as China did some years back. For example, to get a visa to China won't take up to a month from Africa. This has made many Africans move to China for business and more. This has made many Africans first in China and prefer it over the West. Russia is making a similar move, and hopefully this will work out. In recent statements, Oleg Ozerov, ambassador at large of the Russian Foreign Ministry and head of the Secretariat of the Russia-Africa Partnership Forum, revealed that Russia has established visa-free arrangements with 6 African nations and is actively pursuing similar agreements with other countries on the continent. The ambassador explained that Russia currently has visa-free arrangements in place with 6 African countries, and discussions are ongoing with additional states. Furthermore, Russia's commitment to enhancing collaboration and streamlining interactions between Russian citizens and those of African nations is clearly outlined in the action plan adopted during the second summit. As such, Russia remains open to engaging with all interested African countries. Regarding the time frame for reaching such agreements, Ozerov emphasized that it is subject to negotiation. Additionally, Ozerov highlighted Russia's existing agreement for visa-free travel with 32 African countries for holders of diplomatic service passports. He says each process is incremental. Each agreement necessitates separate negotiations with African countries, he clarified. Africans can also become citizens of Russia, but this pathway is different and almost immediate. This is for Africans who decide to serve in the Russian military. In a recent decree issued by President Vladimir Putin, Africans who decide to participate in Russia's actions in Ukraine are now eligible to apply for Russian citizenship for themselves and.
What? So Russia's doing what Mr. Bibi in the office up there of the White House is trying to do with the illegals and let illegals join our military, where Putin's doing it totally legally. If you want to immigrate here, you can be a citizen if you serve. Not if you come here illegally, we'll put you in the military to dominate our citizens and do what we tell you to because you're not an American citizen. It sounds like Russia's really got it going on, man. I wonder why China doesn't adopt such a policy. Because right now, China is actually kicking out Africans from China. But, that's another story. I did a video on that. But this is cool, man. This is cool.
Their families. According to the decree, individuals who have signed contracts during what Moscow terms its special military operation in Ukraine can submit applications to obtain Russian passports for themselves, their spouses, children, and parents. These applicants must provide documentation proving their commitment to serving for a minimum of 1 year. The decree extends to those who have entered agreements with the regular armed forces or other military formations, a category that may include groups like the Wagner Mercenary Organization. The intention behind this measure
by the way, the Wagner Group is actually in those 6 countries. So any African, and this is my first time seeing this, and from what I get from it, any African that wants to serve with the Wagner Group, stay in their country and fight the Islamic terrorist peoples in those countries. They can stay in their countries, get trained, get paid, do what they would have done if they joined their own military. But after a year, they can become Russian citizens and have dual citizenship. I did a show about a year and a half ago where Russia was looking to boost its population and going back to an old, outdated era of paying 1 million rupees to any Russian woman that has like 7 kids, I think it was. 1 million rupees is like $16,000. It's not that much. But they did reenact that pay to breed program in Russia a year and a half, 2 years ago. Now they're making it to where Africans in those 6 African countries can join the Wagner Group, which is in those 6 African countries, serve for a year, get paid, get trained, learn a little bit of language, and then get free citizenship to Russia. That is very interesting. If you see these little things running behind me, they're not missiles, they're kitty cats. They're making a lot of noise right now.
To provide additional incentives for foreigners with military experience to consider joining Russian forces. While Moscow does not disclose figures regarding the number of foreign fighters aligned with its forces in Ukraine, previous reports have highlighted instances, such as Cuban recruits who enlisted in exchange for bonuses far exceeding the average monthly salary in Cuba, as well as African individuals recruited by Wagner, some of whom lost their lives in action. An intelligence report declassified by the United States estimated that Russia has incurred significant casualties in the Ukraine conflict, with approximately 315,000 troops either killed or wounded, constituting nearly 90% of its initial personnel strength at the conflict's outset. In September 2022, Russia initiated its first mobilization since World War II, enlisting an additional.
Yeah, I don't want to get into the war shit with Russia. I just want to stick with the African stuff. I'm going to end this report right here. But it's interesting how everyone's talking about how China is real big in Africa, but I haven't heard any reports of China doing that. I have heard reports of China getting kicked out of several African countries because they use cyanide to extract gold and they don't do it properly and it leaks back into the ground and gets in the water system and destroys small towns and villages. I've heard them kicking the Chinese people out for doing that, but I've never heard of Russians getting kicked out of Africa. But I now have heard Russia's welcoming Africa and welcome in Africa. Again, flip side of that coin, financial advantage. Do your own due diligence, but don't forsake looking at possibilities of Africa for a great business investment opportunity. No matter what country's backing it, business is business. You guys have a good night.